The best way to control the opposition is to lead it ourselves. Vladimir Lenin. Good afternoon, everybody. So this is going to be probably a lead up to another video I'm going to do, which is probably going to be pretty controversial, I guess. But let's go ahead and start it off. So I've been watching my like YouTube subscriber list and notifications, and it's kind of cleaning it up a bit, just like I used to just subscribe to people where I saw one video and it was good, and then I'd see a bunch of other videos which is like, no, that's not very good. And then people who would subscribe to me, I'd subscribe to them if they have videos that look like pretty useful information, right? That they would put something out there. Anyways, this one is from I started watching it because of Perth Observer. I'm subscribed to her. Still on the fence about this one, but you know, I just noticed, and then I was like, huh, okay, this is interesting. So what's going on is this person is kind of ended up going big, and especially if like small YouTubers are covering them. And of course, this is more along the lines of hey, plain truth. Just, you know, the whole opposition to doing what's right. You're free, support the Constitution of the United States, etc. So I just want to do a little checkup on it. And Greg Anderson is this officer from Seattle, Washington. I grew up near there. And he had two videos that kind of went somewhat viral. Yeah, this one is 8 minutes 47 seconds, and then he had a follow-up one, 8 minutes 49 seconds. You can watch all of this stuff over on his Instagram page. And you could see he's got the one-eyed symbolism, black and white checkerboard, you know, of all these different profiles that you can have. He chooses that one. His name is Granderson33. 33 is a big number for Freemasonry. Anyways, the idea is this person could be a Freemason and controlled opposition, and make up your own mind. And, you know, the quote that I have for the day is from Vladimir Lenin: the best way to control the opposition is to lead it ourselves. Now, two almost 9-minute videos, and this person has raised, as of right now, $252,019 on GoFundMe. Very suspect. I mean, I've been around in a lot of, I guess, protest type work. What do you call it? Just something to activism. That's the word for it. Never raised money this fast, even for something bigger and more important. But you know, the ones who do seem to raise a lot of money are just people who like to talk about things. And of course, we've seen very similar instances. At least I have. Remember the pipeline over in South Dakota, and there was the military, ex-military officers, remember, and they're leading it. The guy who was in charge of it, well, he was pretty shady. He took a lot of money, and I may go over it. I'll try to find it. But anyways, I'm gonna pretty much play back these two videos that he did in order, this one and the next one, and then we'll talk about it a little bit more. All right.
You know, as a police officer, I'm compelled to make this video. I've been in law enforcement for 10 years, and I'm speaking to my peers, other fellow officers, people in any kind of law enforcement position. I've seen officers nationwide enforcing tyrannical orders against the people, and I'm hoping it's the minority of officers, but I'm not sure anymore, because every time I turn on the television, every time I look to the internet, I'm seeing people arrested or cited for going to church, for traveling on the roadways, for going surfing, opening their businesses, going to the park with their families, or doing nails out of their own house, using their own house as a place of business, and having undercover agents go there and arrest them and charge them with what? With a crime? I don't know what crime people are committing by doing nails in their own house, but we're seeing this more and more and more, and we need to start looking at ourselves as officers and thinking, is what I'm doing right? Now, I want to remind you that regardless of where you stand on the coronavirus, we don't have the authority to do those things to people just because a mayor or a governor tells you otherwise. I don't care if it's your sergeant or your chief of police. We don't get to violate people's constitutional rights because somebody in our chain of command tells us otherwise. It's not how this country works. Those are de facto arrests. You know, we're violating people's rights and taking money from them, or even worse, arresting them and depriving them of their freedom when they are exercising their constitutional rights. So let's talk about that. Let's read something right here off of the Declaration of Independence. All men are created equal. Among these, we have the right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. That to secure these rights, governments are instituted among men, deriving their power from the consent of the governed, meaning our power and any government official's power is derived from the people. Okay? We don't hold power over our citizens. It's contradictory to everything that our country stands for. And this is what I'm seeing. First Amendment rights, telling people they can't go to church, freedom of religion. Okay? Telling people they can't protest, freedom of assembly. Fourth Amendment violations, illegal traffic stops to check for papers. What are you, the Gestapo? Is this 1930s Nazi Germany? You don't get to stop people unless you have reasonable suspicion or probable cause that they have committed a crime. And I know people that have personally been stopped saying, we want to see papers showing that you're essential.
David, you copy a phone call.
That is not how our job works, okay? What really has been pissing me off lately is the fact that these officers that are going out here and enforcing these tyrannical orders, what they're doing is they're making my job and my safety, or they're putting my job and my safety at risk. Because what you're doing is you're widening the gap between public trust and law enforcement officers. And what that's going to do is it's going to, I mean, look at what's happened to law enforcement in the last 10 years. Less and less public trust, and more often than not, that is a result of isolated incidents that get blown out of proportion. Well, they're not isolated anymore. They're happening every single day. And the thing that I want you guys to realize is that our power that we hold as law enforcement officers is nothing more than a facade. It's a badge and a gun. And people, you don't realize, if you haven't lived in anarchy, if you haven't seen combat, things can be stripped from people in a heartbeat. And that's what I'm afraid of. I'm afraid that these actions are going to wake a sleeping giant, i.e. the American people, okay? They are going to be put in a position where they won't have their rights trampled anymore. And us as law enforcement officers, we'll have our ability to enforce the law stripped from us in about 10 minutes. Okay? I think what is going to happen if this continues is we're going to see bloodshed in the streets. Okay? I don't want to see bloodshed in the streets on either side of this coin. I don't want to see fellow officers get injured or killed, and I certainly don't want to see citizens get injured or killed. And I promise you, most of you out there doing these tyrannical acts against our citizens, you're not ready for combat. You're not mentally or physically ready for combat in the first place. I promise you, you don't want to go through that, and I hope I never have to go through that again. You don't get to just say, well, I'm doing this because I was told to do so, or I'm following orders, or I need to keep this job. Guess what? I need to keep this job more than anybody. I have 3 young children. I have 2 houses. Like, I have the same sob story that the rest of you guys have. But my personal choices and my living arrangements, no matter what they are, don't allow me to trample on people's rights. And I don't understand why that concept is so hard for people to understand. Listen, you need to stand up for what's right. You need to, if you're part of a department or an agency that is asking people or asking their officers or their deputies to impose on people's rights and infringe on their freedoms, you need to step up and say, no, that's not me. That's not what I signed up for, and that's going against my oath. And if that costs you your job, so be it. At least you'll be able to look at yourself in the mirror at night. I've already expressed this to my department. And luckily for me, I come from a department that I feel like my chain of command shares my view, but I don't care what department you're part of or what your chain of command thinks. You don't get to trample on people's liberty. And so, as a special operations veteran, I've fought on the streets of Iraq under the U.S. government's guise of freedom. And I'm telling you what, the American people are going to you are going to wake a sleeping giant, and they are going to fight 10 times harder for their freedom on their soil than anything you've ever seen before. And if that's something you're willing to face, then keep trampling on people's rights. But I promise you, the American spirit of defiance is going to rise again, and it's going to be a big problem for our country. So I'll leave you with this, something that I learned as an E-nothing in the Army. No matter what situation you're put in, if you look inside yourself and ask yourself one question, am I doing the right thing? You ask yourself that, you know the answer. And no amount of money or no order or law or anything should be able to make you go against doing the right thing. So I'm imploring officers to look inside themselves and ask themselves, is this what I want to be doing to my citizens? And I think the answer is clear. And if we all stand up together, guess what? It'll be a non-issue, no factor, because people and law enforcement will be united like we should be. As a police officer, I'm compelled to make this video. I've been in law enforcement for 10 years, and I'm speaking to my peers, other fellow officers, people in any kind of law enforcement position. I've seen officers nationwide enforcing tyrannical orders against the people, and I'm hoping it's the minority of officers, but I'm not sure anymore, because every time I turn on the television, every time I look to the internet, I'm seeing people arrested or cited for going to church, for traveling on the roadways, for going surfing, opening their businesses, going to the park with their families, or doing nails out of their own house, using their own house as a place of business, and having undercover agents go there and arrest them and charge them with what? With a crime? I don't know what crime people are committing by doing nails in their own house, but we're seeing this more and more and more, and we need to start looking at ourselves as officers and thinking, is what I'm doing right? Now, I want to remind you that regardless of where you stand on the coronavirus, we don't have the authority to do those things to people just because a mayor or a governor tells you otherwise. I don't care if it's your sergeant or your chief of police. We don't get to violate people's constitutional rights because somebody in our chain of command tells us otherwise. It's not how this country works. Those are de facto arrests. You know, we're violating people's rights and taking money from them, or even worse, arresting them and depriving them of their freedom when they are exercising their constitutional rights. So let's talk about that. Let's read something right here off of the Declaration of Independence. All men are created equal. Among these, we have the right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. That to secure these rights, governments are instituted among men, deriving their power from the consent of the governed, meaning our power and any government official's power is derived from the people. Okay? We don't hold power over our citizens. It's contradictory to everything that our country stands for. And this is what I'm seeing. First Amendment rights, telling people they can't go to church, freedom of religion. Okay? Telling people they can't protest, freedom of assembly. Fourth Amendment violations, illegal traffic stops to check for papers. What are you, the Gestapo? Is this 1930s Nazi Germany? You don't get to stop people unless you have reasonable suspicion or probable cause that they have committed a crime. And I know people that have personally been stopped saying, we want to see papers showing that you're essential.
David 2, copy a phone call.
That is not how our job works, okay? What really has been pissing me off lately is the fact that these officers that are going out here and enforcing these tyrannical orders, what they're doing is they're making my job and my safety, or they're putting my job and my safety at risk. Because what you're doing is you're widening the gap between public trust and law enforcement officers. And what that's going to do is it's going to, I mean, look at what's happened to law enforcement in the last 10 years. Less and less public trust, and more often than not, that is a result of isolated incidents that get blown out of proportion. Well, they're not isolated anymore. They're happening every single day. And the thing that I want you guys to realize is that our power that we hold as law enforcement officers is nothing more than a facade. It's a badge and a gun. And people, you don't realize, if you haven't lived in anarchy, if you haven't seen combat, things can be stripped from people in a heartbeat. And that's what I'm afraid of. I'm afraid that these actions are going to wake a sleeping giant, i.e. the American people, okay? They are going to be put in a position where they won't have their rights trampled anymore. And us as law enforcement officers, we'll have our ability to enforce the law stripped from us in about 10 minutes, okay? I think what is going to happen if this continues is we're going to see bloodshed in the streets, okay? I don't want to see bloodshed in the streets on either side of this coin. I don't want to see fellow officers get injured or killed, and I certainly don't want to see citizens get injured or killed. And I promise you, most of you out there doing these tyrannical acts against our citizens, you're not ready for combat. You're not mentally or physically ready for combat in the first place. I promise you, you don't want to go through that, and I hope I never have to go through that again. You don't get to just say, well, I'm doing this because I was told to do so, or I'm following orders, or I need to keep this job. Guess what? I need to keep this job more than anybody. I have 3 young children. I have 2 houses. I have the same sob story that the rest of you guys have.
Oh, I guess it was on repeat. I should double check that more often. All right. I just like it how it's like, I got the same sob story. I got 3 children, 2 houses. 2 houses. What's funny is he's been on the force for 10 years. And this is the first time he speaks out about things going on that are tyrannical and things like that. Otherwise, there's been people over the last 10 years that have been speaking out about this whole thing. They don't get that many views. This is 669,000 views. They get nowhere near amount of money raised. I mean, just watching that for the last 12 minutes, he's made $2,000. People have been doing this for 10 years. They make $2,000 speaking out about all of this stuff. One of the things I did remember is Wesley Clark Jr. and Michael Wood. They're the ones who kind of took control of the situation in Standing Rock with the Dakota Access Pipeline, right? And just the amount of money that was raised by them. And of course, you've got a bunch of indigenous people who are, trying to protect their land, or the land, not necessarily their land, but the way how it's done. They raised, at least on this one, Veterans for Standing Rock, no dapple, $1.15 million, right? Now, what you don't see in the news, you'll see it in a lot of like small news, but there's articles that have been around for a while. What happened to the $8 million people raised for Standing Rock? They'll pretty much tell you kind of somewhat the story. But then there's also been a petition and many other people who have spoken out against Michael A. Wood. And here's one. Wesley Clark Jr. and Michael Wood return Standing Rock money. Wesley Clark Jr. and Michael Wood set up a GoFundMe.com account under the guise of helping veterans travel to Standing Rock, North Dakota. According to the page, the funds we raise on this page will go towards providing transportation supplies for the brave patriots that come and stand with us. Of the more than $1.15 million that has been donated, 0 of the money has been distributed, and despite having masterminded the money raised under his own name, Clark now claims he does not have access to the money. There are links here. I have no control of the money from you. You have to ask Michael Wood Jr. You believe that you're going to solicit donations for cause and all this other stuff. And then you've only got 44 supporters for this cause. Nobody's seeing it. You've got all these people who are there, or been in the front lines, didn't have any recognition, didn't get any help, and that was controlled opposition. Here's one from Sherman Wood. Originally, the Facebook posts and emails from Clark and maybe Wood said that the equipment purchased and money would be left with the tribe. Apparently, the tribe did not receive it, and many veterans who went to stand with them did not even get money for meals, plus many paid their own travel, most of the carpools, and stayed in gyms. Then Clark made a video saying money would go to veterans travel and extra would go to future projects. What the heck? That is not what I donated for. All the money needs to be given to the volunteers for their expenses and the tribe as soon as possible. That is what was advertised. The people at Standing Rock need the money. I did not donate for Clark's miscellaneous future projects, as he said in a recent video, whatever those are. It is clear that Clark is a self-promoter, and many of us have started got involved with him at all. Luke Eastman, I'm signing because Wesley Clark Jr. and Michael Wood are turds. He used this whole thing for self-promotion. Fuck those guys. Tracy Beering, that shit is shameful for the whole movement. Daphne Martin, please redress the situation without delay. Many people who were unable to be there themselves contributed to your fund in good faith and in support of the veterans who stood up in solidarity with Standing Rock and now purported your vision of support. So you can pretty much see a lot of the stuff in the past. The whole controlled opposition always seems to come into play. A lot of money gets, a lot of notoriety, or a lot of visibility gets done. And a lot of money gets raised. People think that's a good thing, but again, what happened in the end? Well, the Dakota Access Pipeline kept going. The whole Standing Rock, I think, is still happening, but they're receiving no help, no visibility at all. And the people who spent time and energy trying to support that, well, they didn't really support them because they supported the people who were spearheading it, which are the controlled opposition. And then again, ex-military, ex-police officers. Wesley Clark Jr. is the son of Wesley Clark, General Wesley Clark, and you think he's gonna be on your side? I don't know what to tell you. Anyways, I'm gonna go ahead and show you this almost 9-minute video, and I'll continue with my dribble, whatever you want to call it.
Hey, what's up, guys? So I just kind of wanted to take a couple minutes, get everybody caught up to speed on what's going on in my life. I've been getting a lot of questions, and figured I'd just make a second video and answer some of the things that I've been receiving. I first wanted to say I'm humbled by the response that my video got. It's been viewed millions and millions of times. People all over the country have been calling me, texting me, sending me emails, comments, and the overwhelming majority of it has been positive. And so I think that's pretty cool, because my whole thought process on making that video was trying to bridge the gap between law enforcement and the public. And I've seen both sides with open arms willing to embrace that. And I think that's a step in the right direction. So that's pretty cool. One thing that I've seen come up over and over in the comments, or is there any discipline any discipline taking place? And so I figured I'd take a chance and give you a little synopsis of the last 3 days of my life after posting that video. So I posted the video on Tuesday, was it May 5th? And it took it took a day or two before it really started getting a lot of traction. But the next morning when I woke up on the 6th, I think it was only at a few thousand views. And I had received a message from my command saying, "Wow, Greg, what a powerful message. We agree with that 100%, well done." And that was actually a relief for me, because I was like, great, I know that it's risky putting something out like that, but I felt like it was so grounded in integrity and liberty that no one would have an issue with it. So that was a relief. And then fast forward 3 hours later, I get another phone call from my command, and it said, hey Greg, the video's up to 400,000 views. It's time to pull the plug on this thing. And I immediately, it kind of caught me off guard, because I said, why would we want to pull the plug on something that was already acknowledged as a good and powerful message from one law enforcement officer to others? And I said, yeah, that doesn't really make sense to me. I think maybe we should embrace this message and we should share this with other officers. And he said, listen, it's not up to me. I have been directed to tell you to take the video down, and I need to know if you're going to take the video down. And I said, no, I can't take the video down, because if you listen to my first video, the whole message that I was trying to share with people and impart on them is, if you believe in something in your heart, you have to stand by that conviction, even if it costs you everything. And like I said last time, I have 3 little kids. I have this house. I have another house. I cannot afford to lose my job. But after putting that message out there and sharing that with America, and it was so well received, I can't then just say, even though that's what I believe, I'm going to take a step back, I'm going to retract my words, and I'm going to allow my command to prevent me from sharing my heart and my truth. And I said, so with that in mind, sir, I can't take the video down. And, I didn't know where this was going to go. And I immediately started thinking about, what are they going to try and gig me on? What did I do wrong? What policy did I violate? And I got called back a couple hours later. And by this time, it was skyrocketing. Everyone in the agency was seeing it. Cops from when I was an officer down in Los Angeles, they were contacting me. I got a call and it said, listen, the video needs to be taken down right now, and you need to accept a letter of reprimand, or we're going to take a very different approach to this if you say no again. Well, I'd already put myself on that hill, and I had to be willing to die on that hill. They said they determined the video was a violation of policy, and that if I wouldn't take it down, that allegations would be made against me, and so on and so on. And so I told him, no, I'm not going to take it down. You do what you need to do. But the principle of it is rooted in truth, and it was a positive message that was received by millions and millions of people. If you want me to take it down, I have to respectfully refuse. And it was interesting because they kept citing different policies, like, oh, it was the social media policy, or some of your equipment may have been identifiable. And that kind of seemed like a moot point to me. And it was strange because why was the message okay at 5 a.m. and then 3 hours later, there was a problem with it? And so I was later contacted by the chief of police. He's someone that I have great respect for. He's a good man to work for. And he's the one that shot me straight. And he said, Greg, if you openly defy your governor, you can't be a police officer in the state of Washington. And I told him, I said, you know what? I can respect that. And if I were in your office, I would shake your hand, respectfully disagree, and say, maybe I'm not meant to be a police officer in the state of Washington then. And here's my thoughts on that, okay? You have to do your research. You have to figure out what your true north is, what your truth is, and where you stand on issues. For me personally, I believe that the Constitution supersedes all other documents, all other laws. There's case law supporting that. If you look at Marbury versus Madison, 1803, it says any future laws created that are repugnant, meaning in conflict with the Constitution, are null and void. So when I look at how I feel comfortable enforcing the law, and I see people exercising constitutional rights, it doesn't matter if there's different executive orders, requests from mayors, requests from governors. To me, the Constitution supersedes that, and I'm going to stand with the people. Well, unfortunately, higher up in all agencies, there's a political game being played, and now I am on a administrative leave status pending termination. I was told by both the agency and the union that I was asked to take it down, and I refused. So that's refusing a direct order. It's an insubordination charge, and it will result in me ultimately being let go from the agency. And I said, you know what? If that's what you guys have to do, if that video is so bad that you want to take my career from me and you want to leave my, potentially take my ability away to provide for my family because of that video, do it. Because I'm going to stand by my convictions, just like I said in my last video. So yeah, it's weird, how fast your life can change in a week. It's something that I never thought would happen. I never thought that I would make a video that would resonate with millions of people. But, my head is held high. I'm not intimidated or upset by how this played out. Like I said in my last video, man, I fought in the streets of Ramadi during 04 and 05. I came to terms long ago that my convictions and my beliefs may cost me everything up into my life. And even though it's 15 years later and I'm a police officer in Seattle, Washington, that truth still remains for me. So I don't have an option to back down or feel sorry for myself or give in and say, you know what, I got kids and I think I'm just going to take the letter. No, if they want to do me like this for standing up for liberty, they can do that. I'll leave you guys with this. It's on to the new adventure for me. I've been doing different things my whole life, and I'm actually excited, to tell you the truth. If you know of anyone accepting resumes, hit me up, because I might need it in the near future. But, I've always wanted to circumnavigate the globe on a sailboat, so maybe it's time to chase that dream. Anyways, I appreciate all the support, guys. Take care.
How do you like that? He ends with circumnavigate the globe in a sailboat. Good stuff. So here you go. The hidden one eye symbolism, the black and white checkerboard, Granderson 33, easily points to Freemasonry. And of course, hey, you might agree with Freemasonry. Some of the stuff that they hide from me actually is stuff that you should know, and it's not bad. It's not good or bad, but it can be used for either. He's kind of worried about, he's on administrative leave, still being paid. He says it right there. He's worried about how he's gonna, raise his 3 kids with his 2 houses. And let's see, he 254,217 in the last 9 minutes. How much did he raise? Just another $2,000. I don't think he's gonna be that worried. What happens to all this money when the video stays up? I mean, if it stays up, it gets terminated, right? If the video goes down, then does he have his job back? What happens to the money then? All this money is his, no matter what. You don't see that much money ever being raised. Whatever you go down, whether you go down to the whole 9/11 stuff, you go to the whole, flat Earth, globe Earth lie, all that other stuff. What if you're not part of that control system? If you don't have any of the credentials, right? You haven't been in service I've had some service in the military, but you don't have any service in the military. You don't have service in the like being an officer or politics or PhD, whatever, all that stuff. If you don't have any of that stuff, right, your videos are going to be like mine. You'll have up to 1,000. You'll have no followers, almost nobody commenting on your videos, not many people watching it. Definitely ain't going to raise any money. Nobody cares. And then all of a sudden you got the controlled opposition fella who just comes up out of nowhere, posts 2 videos, they go viral, raises almost $250,000 in less than a week, and there you go. Let's see. Low key T, he's controlled op. His vibes are completely off. Ronnie Foshi, I wonder why truthers always post people like this. Yeah, Loki. Loki. It's like Loki, right? From Norse. I've been kind of following a whole bunch of Norse stuff. Interesting. Nothing goes viral unless it's allowed to. Yeah, I agree. So just watch out. Keep track of this guy. It's the same thing. And I'm gonna go into race later on, and people might think of me as racist, even though I have a white wife and 2 children from her. Plenty of friends. They're different races, and people equate racial traits as racism. I don't think so. We are all grew up in different geographic locations, different people. We all have genetic differences, even whatever slight. And just because, and of course, racism is about racial superiority. That whatever race that you regard as superior to another is racism. If you're white and you think white people are superior to other races or colors, whatever, then that's racism. Heck, if you're white and you believe black people are superior to other races, that's still racism, right? But if you think none of them is superior to another, that's equality. But one thing I have been seeing in a lot of these movements, whether it's controlled op or not, you never know. But one of the things that I find as far as signs is that they always seem to try to get people to follow a form of authority that's already been set up. They'll speak out against every other authority out there, except, or control system, whatever you want to call it, and they go, oh, except this one is okay, right? Flat Earth, almost everyone who's really well known in the Flat Earth movement, majority of them are white and Christian. You don't really see that many non-whites and non-Christians kind of touted in the whole Flat Earth community. You see all these debates, all these people who get invited into the bigger shows, whether it's Joe Rogan or Alex Jones or whatever, they're not white. And they're probably not Christian either, right? Everyone's going to be Christian, white, and they're going to be well known within it, whether it's controlled opposition. heck, I have no idea. Even with this guy, Officer Anderson, I have no idea. So the next one is going to be probably talking about that. So that'll be a little bit interesting. One of the people that I've been subscribed to that's kind of getting bigger, right? Subtle Infinity, if you don't know his channel. He's not white. He's flat earther. I don't think he's Christian. Who knows? And then there's of course flathead politics. So there's very few people that have good amount of people that follow and listen to. Oh, actually, D Marble is another one. So you got about 3 people who are well known within the flat earth circles that aren't white. Let's see. I'm gonna finish up with some live chat. If anyone wants to come in and talk, the description box has a link. Someone who's on an iPad, iPhone, wanted to come in earlier. I just wanted to finish the playback. So if you want to come in now, you can. Let's see. What does he need 200,000 for? Well, he actually only wanted 50,000 gold, but of course, anything after that is theirs anyway. Let's see. Never cared for flat Earth or globe Earth. At least still gonna run it no matter the shape. Yeah. But the E-lights, I like to call them L-light, because L is stand for their god. They're light versions of them. Yeah. They don't really run anything. If you just kind of understand the principles of nature, I guess you could say. But people have the imagination of or the thought process that they have all this control and power. They really don't. You've got quite a lot of control and power. Whether you relinquish it or not is up to you. The only thing they could take away from you is what you give them, what you allow them to take. Anyways, that's it for today. Maybe I might do a video tonight, but my kid is awake and I've got to go. Thank you for joining me on this one, and just keep your eye out on certain things. Patterns repeat themselves, although not exactly. All right. Thank you and have a good day.